Hello students, our today's topic is Taylor's Principles of Scientific Management. Now students, earlier also we have learned about what is scientific management. Scientific management means knowing exactly what you want men to do and seeing that they do it in the best and the cheapest way. Why Taylor devised these scientific principles? We have to understand a story behind it. Now Taylor, he belonged to an era of industrial revolution. The era which comes in the category of classical school of management thought. We had seen that Taylor, he started his career as a apprentice machinist in an organization where he observed that the system in which the production was carried out in the organization was not perfect. There were lots of drawbacks, and if those drawbacks could be removed, there was always a possibility to perfect the factory system of production. And that is why he wanted to devise the ways, he wanted to derive some of the principles on the basis of which the managers could take the decisions and help in improvement of industrial efficiency. So keeping this in mind, Taylor, he has devised not only the principles but also some of the techniques. But first of all, we will be talking about those principles which Taylor has given. He has basically talked about 4 principles which should be adopted by the organizations. The managers, while basing their decisions, they should always consider the principles and techniques given by Taylor, which is considered as scientific management principles. The first principle was science, not rule of thumb. From the very name itself, the principle says science, not rule of thumb. That means rule of thumb should be replaced by science. Rule of thumb is a way of taking decisions in which the managers use their own personal judgment while they face any problem in the organization. Why? Why this rule of thumb had to be adopted? Because there was no professional management, and most of the management in the organizations during the time of Taylor, they were amateurish. As a result of which, what Taylor observed was that there was need to replace this rule of thumb with science. Because if the managers, they would take the decisions by rule of thumb, that means by using their own personal judgments or intuition to take any decision, it may be possible that his decisions may be biased, may be prejudiced, and it could not be called a rational decision. So there was need for some approach which could replace this rule of thumb, because the greatest limitation of this rule of thumb is trial and error approach. It was not clear what would work and what would not work. The managers, when they encountered the problem, They would use their own personal wit or judgment to solve the problem, and it would be very difficult to identify what solutions were successful and what were not successful, what could be replicated or it could be copied in similar types of situations. That is why there was need for some method which could replace this rule of thumb, and that method could only be science. Because when we talk about science, we see if scientific approach is adopted in taking decisions, what happens? Science is always based on cause and effect relationship. We have understood earlier also. But to replace rule of thumb with science, there was need to see that first of all, the traditional methods had to be investigated. Whatever methods were followed, after proper inquiry and investigation of the traditional methods, one best method had to be selected, and that best method, it should be considered as the standard method which could be adopted throughout the organization for that kind of activity in a similar situation. And that was the way through which rule of thumb could be replaced by science, and he suggested this to adopt or to take decisions rationally. Managers should not use their personal judgment in taking decisions and solving the problems. They should always adopt a rational approach, and that approach should always be based on scientific approach, rational approach, logical thinking, and it should be practiced in the organization as the best method, so that there could be maximum possible use of resources in the best possible manner, with the minimum wastage of time, with the minimum wastage of resources, and maximization of efficiency. In this way, if science could replace rule of thumb, which during the time of Taylor he observed not existing in the organizations, and that is why he suggested this. The second principle which he talked about was harmony, not discord. Harmony, not discord. There should be an atmosphere of complete harmony in the organization. What happens generally in the organization is the entire organization can be divided into two classes. One is the management class and another is the worker class. And there is always a possibility of class conflict to occur in the organization between management and workers. And if this class conflict occurs, automatically it is going to hamper the working of the organization. Because both management and workers, they are indispensable part of any organization. If for any reason there is conflict between management and workers in the organization, we will see that the organization will not function properly. So what should be done to avoid this class conflict and maintain harmony in the organization? Taylor emphasized on one thing, that both management and workers, they have to understand that they are equally important for the organization. An organization cannot function without either of the two. The management alone cannot work, nor the workers alone can work. So there is need for both management and workers in the organization, and if they work together, then only the organization can function properly. And how can they work together? For that, Taylor has used a word that there is need for complete mental revolution mental revolution in the minds of both management and workers. Mental revolution means change in the way of thinking. Change in the way of thinking of both management and workers. They should understand one thing, that both are important. Without them, any of them, the organization cannot function. And if they understand this, what will the management do and what will the workers do? If they transform their way of thinking, that means mental revolution is brought about in the organization. How will the managers think and how will the workers think that it is always beneficial for the organization? For this, first of all, the management always should be ready to share its gain with the workers. Very, very important. I have divided it into two parts. What should be the role of management in this and what should be the role of workers in mental revolution or transforming the way? If they are mentally changed, then how will be their approach towards work that it will lead to improvement in the industrial efficiency? This is what we are talking. So management will always be ready to share its gain with the workers. In your textbook, there is a picture given in which management is providing bonus to worker. It shows that it is ready to share its profit with the workers and it is compensating to workers in the form of bonus for their hard work which they have put. So in this way, the worker will be happy. It also says that not only the management but also the workers, what they should do. They should be ready always to work to their maximum capacity in the organization. Whatever they are capable of doing, they should always be willing to do. And they should accept, ready to work, accept changes which is required by the organization to have a competitive edge. Always, they should not resist from changes. So if this is the atmosphere, that the willing cooperation from the workers is there towards work and they are ready to accept changes, then there will be no requirement of trade unions or any kind of strikes to happen in the organization. If there is no strike, no trade union, what will happen? There will always be an atmosphere of harmony and the work will be performed in a proper manner. Also, it is said that management has to understand one thing, that the true interest of the organization lies in not only the development of the management or growth of the management, but also if that growth is shared with the workers equally. For this, an example of Japanese work culture is given, in which there is paternalistic style of management which is followed in the Japanese work culture, where there is open communication between management and workers. If the workers, they want to go on strike, what do is they wear a black badge and work for 2 hours more to gain sympathy of the management. But they don't stop the work. And if they do that, the management will also be alert and it will take care of its worker so that this kind of atmosphere doesn't arise in the organization and the organization functions smoothly. So in this way, what do we find is that there should always be an atmosphere of harmony, not discord. And if there is harmony, not discord, we will see that the efficiency, the work efficiency is going to be better, the productivity is going to increase in the organization, and overall, everyone is going to benefit from it. The third principle is cooperation, not individualism, which Taylor has talked about. And this principle is the extension of this principle of harmony, not discord. Cooperation, not individualism. Again, it is in reference to management and workers, that there should be always cooperation, not individualism. That means no competition should exist between management and workers. They should work cooperatively, unitedly towards the goal. For this, management and workers both have to play a proper role. How can they work and create an atmosphere of cooperation in the organization and not competition? There are few points. From the management side, always management should have that kind of mindset that constructive suggestions, if it comes from the workers, it should always be given due recognition and rewarded. Very, very important. Because if the suggestions given by the workers is useful for the organization, especially in the reduction of the cost, due credit should be given to the workers, and some way or the other, he should be recognized. The workers' effort should be appreciated. That is going to motivate the worker and develop initiative in the worker to come up with such kind of valuable suggestions also in the future. So first thing, management should do this. Second thing, for all important decisions which can impact the working of the organization and which also is related with the workers, for that the workers should also be involved in taking important decisions, because they have to actually do that work. If they are involved in taking important decisions, they will feel that they are also part and parcel of that decision which they have to apply. And if they have accepted it, then there won't be any position of denying at the later stage. So that will certainly bring about more commitment from the workers' side. The third thing which the management should do is it should always think about equal division or distribution of work in the organization between management and workers. It is the role of the management to see that they present themselves in the correct way in the eyes of the workers. If there is proper distribution of work, equal distribution of work. Also, management should stand side by side with the workers so that the workers feel that our management is also part of us, and that will really boost the morale of the workers who are working in the organization. So this is something which is very, very important for the managers to develop an atmosphere of cooperation. What should the workers do? Cooperation should not be from one side, it should be from both sides. ताली दोनों हाथ से बजनी चाहिए. To workers, first of all, they should not put forth any unreasonable demands before the management. No unreasonable demands before the management. They should avoid going on strikes. They should have that kind of attitude. And this is only possible if there is paternalistic style of management in the organization, wherein the employer's paternalistic style of management means where the management takes proper care of its employees and supports its employees, standing side by side with the employees. This is what is happening in the Japanese work culture, which we have already talked earlier. So there won't be any issue of strike existing in the organization, which should be avoided by the workers. So if this happens, there will always be cooperation, not individualism, and if there is cooperation, not competition between workers and management, they will always work in a cordial manner, and it will always lead to utilization, better utilization of resources and improvement in industrial efficiency. That is why he has focused on this principle. And the last principle which he has talked about is development of each and every individual according to his or her greatest efficiency and prosperity. Development of each and every individual. Now, to improve industrial efficiency so that there is better utilization of resources, so that there is increase in productivity in the organization, there is need to develop each and every individual in the organization. And to develop each and every individual, what should the organization do? From the very, you may say, beginners level, right from the time of selection, the management should open its eyes and adopt the selection process, which should be scientific selection. If it does scientific selection, because the more the selection process is scientific, the more it will be rigorous, and the best employees will be appointed in the organization who will be able to give their, you may say, best to the organization, and this will always help the organization to progress. So if there is proper selection or scientific selection in the organization, there is always a possibility that the efficiency is going to increase. After the selection has been done, there should be proper placement also. Placement of the employee according to his capability, according to the qualification, according to the experience, according to the talent or the skill which the person has, he should be placed on the job so that his capacity can be utilized in the best possible manner. And time to time, training should also be provided so that the individual development of a person working in the organization can take place. That will not only help an individual to grow in the organization, but also there it will create satisfaction for the employee working, that he is given ample chance to make up a good career in the organization, and that is going to improve the efficiency, that is going to lead to overall prosperity of the organization. And in this way we can see that the industrial efficiency can also be improved. So these were some of the scientific principles of management which Taylor focused upon, and that is why he is called the father of scientific management. Taylor is called the father of scientific management because he is considered as the coinage of scientific management. So not only principles, he has also talked about the techniques, and we'll be talking about the techniques in our next lecture. So thank you, take care.